Hello everyone. So, I'm here to do a review of this. Just got it in the mail today, and this is the 1/350th scale kit, obviously, given how big the box is. Box came with this interesting brace in it. Huge set of directions, although it's only, what is it? Basically 2 pages. 3 if you count the back of that page. I haven't even opened this yet, so I haven't really looked at the... I don't even have my X-Acto knife out. That's how prepared I am for this review. I was even gonna... put it up against another 1/350 scale kit to show you how small it is, but I forgot to grab the model. So here are the decals. Wow. They're very vibrant. Decals are very vibrant. There are other reviews of this kit where you don't have to look at the reviewer, but this is how I'm choosing to do this. But yeah, the decals are super vibrant, and this one here is optional. They put a plate on the back of the ship. I'll show it to you when we get to it. And this was the decal that they applied, which is kind of, it just has a number sequence and a letter sequence. I don't know what that's about, but anyway, that particular decal has silver on it, and it's reflective, so it's metallic. It's metallic silver. So that's really cool. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so we'll get to this. We'll get to that part when we get to it. Okay, here are the clear parts. Some of the stuff I'm going to leave in the bags just because. Yeah. I'm not going to light this one. I was thinking maybe I would, because they were talking about designing, they were supposedly designing a lighting kit for it, but then they came out just recently and said, oh, we're probably not going to do a lighting kit for it. We're not going to release it with one anyway. So, okay. Stand. And here's the nitty gritty right here. Here are the parts. Some of the parts. Still in plastic bags. I guess since I'm doing a review, I should probably take them out. Even though I don't really want to. But, you know, that's kind of the whole point here. The only reason I don't want to is because I don't want to get them dusty. Because when I go to... because this thing, I mean, this is white. This kit is molded in white, which is just fine with me because it saves me money having to do a base coat. But I was going to dull coat it once all the decals are applied. And you know, you don't want dust on the surface, you know, to get under your paint, because then it shows up. And so that's why I wanted to leave it in the bags. But I guess I'll just invest in more cans of air. Yeah. So here's the secondary hull. There's a lot of flash here, but there doesn't appear to be any on the parts, so that's good. It's not huge. This ship, according to all sources, it's 120 meters long, so it's not very big. This section here and this section here have texture on them. It's very fine, but there is a texture, so if that's something you're concerned about. This is very smooth, this section here. So there's that. The detail on this is exquisite. As some have said, it's approaching Bondi level. Oh my god, I cannot tell you. Okay, so we all have it's like a magic trick trying to get these things back in. We all have our own likes and dislikes. Things that really appeal to us, just kind of on a kind of an intrinsic level, you know, we're just really attracted to. I love the shape, the hull shape of a boat. Not like all the stuff on the top, but just the hull itself, the shape of a boat's hull. Some boats. Some I don't like so much. But some of them, I just love that shape. And so, both the Excelsior and the Grissom here have boat hulls. And I love this shape. I don't know what it is about it, but I love it. So, to have a ship with a boat hull, to me, that's just one of the most beautiful looking things ever to exist. Now, this is the funny part. This is the funny part. Okay, here is the saucer, such as it is, and here's my hand. I don't have a big hand. Okay, I'm not a really tall, big person. But yeah, it's tiny. But it's big enough for you to put lights in. You know, and my understanding is that this kit was designed with lighting in mind. So that's how small that part is on the back of the saucer section. It's tiny. Now I'll get into later, I don't know if I'll do a video. I'll probably do a couple of videos while I'm building it. Given how into this I am and how much I was really looking forward to getting it, I'm probably not going to paint it for a couple of months till it gets warmer here, you know, till spring really kicks in. So it'll probably be a while, but yeah, I'll probably make a couple of videos kind of showing how I'm intending to do things once I can do them. Of course, being a model generated by ILM, they had to put Greeblies on it, so here are some Greeblies on the nacelle. Those are very finely molded, and they look like just, I mean, one of them clearly looks like a shock absorber. So, you know, ILM, what can you say? It wouldn't be a model from ILM if they didn't put a bunch of Greeblies on it. Let's see here. Okay, so this to me seems like where some of the bulk is. I don't know if I don't really want to take this out of the package, but I think I probably have to, just to illustrate the points I'm trying to make. So there's been one buildup of this on YouTube, and yeah, I love this ship, so I've been studying pictures of the filming model for years, so I have an intimate understanding of what this ship looked like over the various its various appearances on Star Trek. And yeah, this is where a lot of the bulk is. It looks like, other than the hull underneath. But yeah, again, very nice molding. Interesting. These areas here seem to have a lot of scratches on them. I'm guessing that's in the mold, from what I can tell. Here's that plate I was talking about that goes over this part. Yeah, and I already bought the paint for this because I was like, I want to have everything ready, you know, when I get it. But yeah, I was one of the people who, I think I sent them 2 or 3 messages. I originally, long ago, I was the one who came up with the idea that they should do a 2-pack in 1/1000 scale of the Grissom and the bird of prey, so you could have a little diorama if you wanted. That was my idea. And so I was messaging them. I sent them several messages about doing this one in, because I wasn't exactly sure of how big it would be. I suggested 1/537 scale, which would be, and the other part of it was I didn't know how big they would be willing to go with it. So I suggested 1/537 scale to be in scale with the Reliant and the Refit Enterprise. But they did it in 1/350th scale, which is great. So here's the top of that section. And these right here, these 2 things here are clearly tires. They're tires for some kind of military vehicle. Wheels and tires. So, again, the Greeblies. But I mean, you know, having just random Greeblies like on the inside of the nacelle pylons doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, why would you do that? I know sensors, maybe whatever. I know in the TNG era, they started to kind of do that more and more. And of course, it was on the Reliant, stuff like that. But the reason that the original Enterprise didn't have Greeblies on it was that wasn't really a big thing back in 64, 65. But also, like, the last place you want to have machinery on your spaceship is on the outside, because the outside is the most hostile environment imaginable. You would want everything on the inside and in places where you could get to it. It's like how they design submarines now. You know, they design them in the computer, and they design them to such a degree where they can put a human figure in there in the computer and see if people can actually get through to try and get to things, and if things will be in the way of other things, you know. Because they know that, you know, if there's some kind of catastrophe aboard the sub, you're not going to want to send divers out. You know, that's not going to be a thing you're going to want to do, to go and repair your submarine while you're underwater, you know. And it's the same thing with a spaceship. Sure, they have EV suits, but you don't want to go out there, you know. Even in Star Trek, their suits will only protect them from the ambient radiation out there for so long. So those are the parts. Okay, so I think it was for Deep Space Nine, for the pilot episode The Emissary, where they had Dax and Bashir were transported to DS9 on an Oberth class starship, and it was the It was the, which one was it? What are the names? Oh, it was the USS Cochrane, I think, was the one that transported him to DS9. And by that time, they had removed the movie era markings off of it. For the first couple of appearances, it still had the movie era markings on it. Later on, they switched over to the TNG style markings, and they added markings here, you know, to modernize it. But for the Emissary, they actually added two of these docking port decals, but they added them here to the secondary hull. Well, the thing about the Oberth class that everybody argues about is, well, what the hell is down here, and how the hell do you get to it? Because the pylons aren't thick enough, really, for a real turbo lift, you know. And so a lot of people, and this has been my position on it, a lot of people, including myself, think that this is just machinery. Because the only place where there are windows is on that little saucer dome thing and just under it, right? And at this scale, it makes zero sense for there to be windows in the little, in here. Because if you, I have some little 1/350 scale figures. If you put a little 1/350 scale figure in here, it has two rows of windows, right? I'm gonna have to take it out to show you. But it has two rows of windows up here. Well, you put a figure in there. That figure at 1/350 scale can only stand at full height in the center. So, I mean, come on. This thing would have to be at least 150 meters in length to even make these windows possible. It would just be a single room with that many windows. You know, there's no point in that. So, yeah. But at this scale, you're not going to get a full turbo lift to go through these pylons. They're just not big enough. And so, what we've all... The thought process is that this is all just machinery down here. Hence why there are no windows in there. Makes a degree of sense. On a ship this small, you would, like, you're trying to fit a lot of stuff in here. I mean, this is not a full-fledged, full-blown 5-year, 10-year mission starship. You know, this is a small ship that probably just, you know, goes back and forth, transports people like it was shown in TNG and DS9. You know. But on DS9, they put the little docking hatches down here. But at that time, they actually have, these transporter emitters that they put, I think, on, I don't know if they're on the top or on the bottom of the ship. But anyway, you know, so there's a degree of plausibility that they could transport back and forth. Because intra-ship transportation wasn't a big deal in the TNG era. And why would it be in the TOS era? You're transporting your ship literally from one part of the ship to another part of the ship. You know the exact coordinates. You know the space inside of your own ship and where you could safely beam someone. I mean, you're telling me that it's easier to beam someone from your spaceship down to a planet than it is from one place in your spaceship to another place? Come on. That was some throwaway thing because they did that for plot reasons, you know, to up the stakes. It doesn't make any sense at all. But there was one episode of TNG where they showed a readout of this, you know, a deck layout. And in that episode, there were decks inside here. Of course, there were decks inside the pylons too. And there's if you don't have enough space for a turbo lift, you're not going to have enough space for a full deck. You know, it just doesn't make any sense. But what I'm trying to get at here, in this roundabout way, when they added these decals to the model for DS9, they took them from the 1/537 scale Enterprise. So these decals are from that old 80s Enterprise kit. Well, on here, on these decals, it says Enterprise and NCC 1701 on there. That to me is so cool, because that's what would be on there. Even though none of these are the Enterprise, that's what would be on the actual decals. Now, in reality, those decals in the refit 1/537 scale kit didn't say Enterprise or 1701. They didn't say anything. It was just, you know, like some kind of little black smudges, you know, because it was, you know, the model was so small, and the decals were so small. But here it says Enterprise and NCC 1701, so that's pretty cool that they added that. I think that's a good, it's a good, cute little addition. Oh, okay. I was just about to chastise them for not having the horizontal lines on the transporter emitters, but they do. They're just really, really petite. So yeah. Now, as far as markings, I've been thinking about this for a year. Okay, how I want to mark it, because, you know, every replica they make of this thing, it's the Grissom, and I get tired of looking at 638, you know. And they have the names for every version of the ship that has appeared on screen. Grissom, of course, Oberth, USS Oberth, which is the 602, I think, and I think that was in Star Trek 3 or no, it was in Star Trek 4. Why would it be in Star Trek 3? That was the Grissom. It was in Star Trek 4. And then they have the USS Cochrane, USS Copernicus, the Vico is on here. I saw that. Yeah, USS Vico, USS Pegasus, and yeah. They also have the SS Tsiolkovsky. And I'm a fan of the Naked Now. It's not a good, by any academic measure, it is not a good episode, but it appeals to me. And so the idea of marking my Oberth class starship as the SS Tsiolkovsky does hold a degree of fascination for me, and because they included it, I really kind of want to do that, and it would allow me to use the. Okay, here's the thing about the SS Tsiolkovsky. So that ship, there are two different versions of that ship. Okay, the SS Tsiolkovsky. There are two versions. There's one that has the movie era markings on it, and that has this registry 640. Okay, in the original standard definition version of that episode, the registry is 640, because that's what it had been labeled for one of the Star Trek movies, one of the later movies. And if you look really, really closely, you can kind of see it in the remastered episode. Now, for the remastered episode, for a couple of shots, they used a CG model. Okay, that model is labeled with a higher registry. I don't know which registry it is. The registry. I think it's 53911. I think is the registry. So, but also in a couple of shots of the remastered version, you can see the 640 still. So, I'm kind of like, which version do I use? You know, I grew up watching the original standard definition version. Now, this should tell you how many times I've seen this episode. In the scene where Geordi goes into the quarters and it's all frozen over, there are actually TOS era Burke chairs in there. If you know what a Burke chair is, good for you. You're probably a nerd. But they have Burke chairs in there, and so that kind of made me think, well, maybe there's kind of a tie to TOS, you know. And so it's like, well, maybe this ship really is that old. You know, maybe it is from the movie era, you know. But they updated the computers and stuff, because there are LCARS graphics. Red ones, interestingly. The only time we see red LCARS graphics in there. Yeah, I know what all this stuff is. So I'm kind of torn. I don't know which ship. I don't know how I'm going to mark it. Like, which version do I do? Do I do the 640? Which I think is the Copernicus, I think? Yeah. Or do I do the 59 or 53911? Because one is definitely assigned to the Tsiolkovsky, but the other one was seen on screen, so I don't know. And that's what I've been kind of like going back and forth on. Admittedly, the ship had more to do in Star Trek 3, so I don't, I'm tired of looking at that registry. And I'm definitely going to put these on. Okay, the Tsiolkovsky did not have the ports on there, but I like that so much. I want to put those on there, because it's like they're here, and it's so weird that they say Enterprise on them. You know, how could I not? So yeah, that's the kit. I'm super excited. I'm super pleased with it. You know, 'twas a time when round 2 Polar Lights Star Trek kits weren't all that great, and they weren't all that accurate. But I mean, with this one, they've really upped their game. I mean, this is good stuff. So, I mean, really crisp, really great decals. I mean, just wonderful. It's a wonderful little kit, and it looks accurate. Their 1/1000th scale kit, the okay. On the 1/1000th scale kit, this angle was wrong, and also the angle on this piece, it was too, it went up too far forward, and it was too deep. But I've seen this kit built up, and it's the correct, it's as shallow as it should be, which makes the ship look sleeker. So the fact that they got that right, because for me, those subtleties are important. You know, they make the ship look sleeker. And if you're going to have a a boat hull on a starship, then it should be kind of sleek, you know. The fact that they did that and they got it right, oh God, you have no idea how much that pleases me. Yeah, amazing. So I'm happy, and you know, the prices on these things, they keep going up. But for this, I'm okay with paying $50. I paid $50 plus shipping, so it was like $75. And I have to pay sales tax here. So, you know, I was okay with that. Because it really, this kit is primo, as far as I'm concerned. I think this is, if this is any indication as to the direction in which round 2 is going with future kits, hey, I'm on board. The fact that they made this thing so big is just amazing to me, you know. And I'm such a fan of this ship. I mean, there was no way that I wasn't going to buy it. So, yeah, super stoked for this. And yes, I do use the term stoked on occasion, when applicable. So yeah, that's it. You're probably not too interested in seeing the box, but here's the box. It says optional for that metallic decal on the back. And here it gives you some directions on you know, cut this decal on the side here and this kind of thing. Note, decals 22 through 31 are used only for Star Trek The Next Generation versions. And I think the guy who built this, built the test shot here on YouTube, I think he mentioned on a forum that these numbers here are incorrect. That there's one that you should omit if you're not going to do the TNG version. And again, like for the Tsiolkovsky, they didn't alter the decals yet, and I don't know if they altered the decals for the other versions. For the later, I don't know when they changed that. The only images that I'm aware of, the best images for reference for the model, the filming model, all show it in its, I think, USS Pegasus livery, which has the extra, you know, the TNG era decals. So don't use those as a guide. You might have to go back and find screen grabs. You can go to trekcore.com to get screen grabs from the movies and stuff like that. Because you don't want to put the wrong decal on your model and then do a clear coat over it and seal it in. You know, you want to get all your ducks in a row, so to speak. So I would suggest, highly suggest, using screen grabs. You're not going to get every angle, you know, but like with this one, it's pretty easy. The only decals that the Grissom, that the movie era ships had on the top was the registry, the name, the 2 stripes on either side of the saucer, and that's it. And all these red stripes here on the upper saucer, the 2 transporter emitters, none of that. You don't use any of that on the movie era ships, unless you want to. So yeah, it's important to, for you to get your references and use those rather than necessarily relying upon what they say on the box, because sometimes they get it wrong. I don't know what it is with round 2. You know, they can make this model look like the actual filming miniature, but when it comes to labeling the decals, you know, they get things wrong. I'm not going to get too angry because as a modeler, I do a lot of custom work. I do a lot of kit bashes, that kind of thing, so you know, I always use heavy reference. You know, I go through everything that I can. So for me, that's not going to be a big deal. But yeah, so that's it. That's the model. And here's the back of the box if you wanted to see it. Lots of images. Tells you about that little plate that goes on the back. I think this is more interesting. You know, the tube. So I'm going to be using that. But yeah. Yeah, very cool. Very happy. So hope you liked the video. Hope it was helpful to you in some way. So